Before we get started, make sure you're wearing your headphones for maximum audio experience.
Hello, listeners. My name is Sophia.
And my name is Elle.
And welcome to Rhyme and Reason Podcast. In today's episode, we will be talking about early birds versus night owls and the benefits of sleeping early.
For our listeners who may be unfamiliar with the terms, early birds are the term that we associate people with who get up early in the morning to start their day. And by early, I mean 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. early. Night owls, on the other hand, are those who stay up late from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. the following day. These are usually the night shift workers or graveyard shift workers. The information we are about to discuss are all based on our research, and the articles that we will be referencing from will be listed below in the description for our YouTube listeners. Early birds and night owls have different skill set and benefits. Let's start off with the early birds. Early birds are what society often classifies as hard workers. One key to success is to have lunch at the time of day most people have breakfast. This is a quote by Robert Brault, an opera singer. We are all familiar with the saying, "The early bird catches the worm," right? After all, it is a very well-known expression. But for you, when did you first hear the expression, Sophia?
I would say the first time I heard this expression was definitely at home because my parents would tell stories of their childhood, and since my dad and my mom lived in the province or in homes where mornings usually start very, very early, they would emphasize the importance of sleeping early and waking up early to prepare for the day's work. So ever since I was a kid, it's been emphasized to sleep and wake up early because we have house chores every day. So the earlier we get up, the more work we can do within the day. And I've noticed if I failed to wake up early, I would prioritize my chores less and focus on the tasks that I need to do for the day. For example, schoolwork, I usually push chores aside and focus on the schoolwork because schoolwork is more demanding. So yeah, that's the first time I've heard of the quote.
Early birds tend to sleep early to get up early the following day. I'm an early bird myself, and I often sleep at 9 p.m. and I get up as early as 5 a.m. the following morning. According to Catherine Dudley's article on Harvard Health Publishing, we have what is called an internal clock or body clock. This is often the work of discipline in the household or self-discipline for some. While night owls have a bit more freedom as to when they can fall asleep and what time they get up the following day, early birds are conditioned to wake up early. The internal clock is called Circadian rhythm. Each person has a unique internal clock because we all have our sleeping patterns, eating patterns, and hormone levels, and even our mood differs from this. A recent Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Science in Sports looked into body clocks and whether or not it was related to physical activity. They discovered that night owls are less active and have less physical abilities compared to their counterpart.
The Harvard Gazette released an article by Louise Vanels in 2019 about the links of our body clock to our mental health and diseases. Based on their study, the genomic regions identified include those central to body clocks, are also referred as circadian rhythms, as Elle mentioned, as well as the genes expressed in the brain and retinal tissue. So, our body clocks are influenced by genes and lifestyle factors, including diet, exposure to artificial light, and our jobs and activities. Our body clock also affects a wide range of molecular processes, including hormone levels and core body temperature, as well as our waking and sleeping patterns. And so, when this body clock is disrupted, we can get harmful effects.
Early birds are way more productive compared to their counterpart. Although early birds tend to burn out during the afternoons and are always in need of their naps, early birds can get things done earlier in the day. Starting an hour ahead of everyone can put you at an advantage and finish one or two tasks while people are still snoozing. This extra time is valuable, so use it and accomplish as much as you can to get more out of your day. early birds are also way more organized. We fall asleep thinking about all the things we are going to get done the following day. So, what do you think are the disadvantages of sleeping late?
As you might have guessed, there isn't much my research says about the benefits of sleeping late because our bodies really do need that time to reset and recharge from a long day's work. So, for example, you use your phone almost every hour of every day, charging it around 3 to 4 hours, depending on your usage, of course. And you can already feel it overheating and notice lagging when it comes to its performance. So just imagine our bodies, especially like our heart or brain, that keeps working even as you go to sleep. The breaks they have or when they can finally slow down is during the nighttime or when you sleep. And so allowing your body to recharge and rest will help you become more productive and more efficient in the long run. So as Elle mentioned, it is important that we get a good 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Based on the statistics collected and published by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention on sleep patterns of adults in the US, adults who would sleep less than 7 hours a day were more likely to report being obese, physically inactive, current smokers, and exhibit 10 chronic health conditions than those who had 7 hours or more sleep. Of those 10 chronic health conditions, second of the list of the chronic illnesses after arthritis is depression, with 28.8% of the sample population testing for depression. Based on the article, adolescents typically need at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night. But based on the findings of this report, more than 2/3 of the US high school students report getting less than 8 hours of sleep during school days. I'm sure all of us have experienced staying up late at some point trying to finish a paper or trying to catch the deadline. Do you have any similar experiences to when you had no choice but to stay up late to finish like a certain project for school?
Actually, I have. As we mentioned earlier in one of our episodes, we are students from University of the Philippines Open University, and we have a subject called Wika, which is a Filipino subject, and we have a lot of written assignments. So I remember we have one particular assignment. It was our first assignment for our first term, and I was struggling to write it because I was not used to writing in Tagalog. So I remember sending it at exactly 11:59 p.m. and the deadline was 1 minute after. So that's one of the latest nights I've had. Aside from that, every Sunday we record podcast episodes. So we often record really late at night, around 9:45 p.m. to say 10 p.m. we start recording. And sometimes our recordings get up to 2 hours at most. So after our recordings, we would often...
It usually ends a little before 12 a.m. of the following day.
Yeah, it does. And then after that, what we do is we often discuss everything about the podcast. So it's like from the art to the editing and every single little detail and the description. So
Wait, I think it's important to note why we choose to record very late at night. It's because usually this is the only time that our surroundings are somewhat quiet. Of course, there's like different small sounds now and then in the background, but it's the most optimal recording time that we can do.
yes, that. Because we have those background noises that most Filipino people would recognize, such as the chickens in the background and the random dog barks in the background, and especially everybody's favorite
motorcycle noises.
Yeah, motorcycles and tricycles. Yeah, everybody loves those. So how about you? What are your experiences when it comes to staying up late?
For me, I've only had somewhat bad experiences with sleeping late. Those bad effects usually happen the next day. If you're currently in senior high school or if you're in college, I'm sure you have those subjects or deadlines for those subjects that are really demanding. Especially if you're doing group work, I'm sure that there's some delay when it comes to submitting things on time. For me, the latest instance of when I slept very, very late to finish something is during end of December. I had engaged myself into this animation project that had to be done within 2 weeks. And during that 2 weeks, I was still doing a little bit of school and also preparing for this medical exam that I had to take. And so the deadline was a little bit tight, and I didn't have the liberty of using the computer to animate for the whole day. So I would usually have time during the nighttime to animate. So that would usually take so many hours, and I remember my eyes and my head hurting every single time. The only time that I could close my eyes during the day is if I were to blink or to close my eyes during mealtime. When I chew, I close my eyes so that my eyes could rest. So that was one of the bad effects that I experienced when it comes to staying up late and straining my eyes for such a long time. So with that, I will segue in the downsides or the other downsides of being sleep deprived or lacking sleep. So according to the NHS article that lists down some of the reasons why lack of sleep or sleep deprivation is bad for your health, it lists down some bad effects such as mood fluctuations, irritability, fatigue, lack of focus, problems in decision making, and other health problems such as weak immune system, and in other more serious cases, it's obesity, heart disease, high blood pressure, and even diabetes. And over time, it can also bring negative effects on your mental health. When I was in senior high school, I definitely noticed some of my classmates that were always sleeping during classes, or sometimes they would lose focus, especially during math. They can't catch up, although we can't blame that on sleep entirely. I would ask them, and they would always say that they slept around 3 a.m. or very, very, very late in the day or even the next day. And our classes start around 8 a.m. So between that and also commuting, they only have around 4 hours of sleep for a day. And it really shows in their performance in school. I also am guilty of sometimes falling asleep in class or feeling sleepy. And so I can relate to losing focus during class. And so the bad effects really show. It especially takes a toll on your mental health overall. I'm basing this off of your example on your daily routine, which starts very early at 5 a.m. And you mentioned that it makes you feel very productive and that you can feel that you've already done so much in your day. And for me, I've experienced waking up very late. I've experienced, well, it's not that late, around 10 a.m. And already I feel like my day has been cut in half. So I don't feel as excited or as motivated to go about my routine because I feel like I've already thrown out half the day out of the window. So even then, because I didn't set myself up for success, I guess, the night before, I couldn't perform well the next day. And it affects my overall mood and productivity because for mood, I would be upset with myself and I would beat myself up for not waking up early and finishing all the tasks that I need to do. And it would also affect my productivity because obviously, since I'm in school, the deadlines can be tough. And if you procrastinate or if you push some subjects and deadlines aside, your schedule will get derailed and deadlines will tend to overlap. So following that, Elle, do you have any advice as to, especially students like you who are in college or even in senior high school, do you have any advice on how to start your day well by waking up early?
Actually, I do. I have a few tips that some of you may find interesting. So maybe it could be a new lifestyle, or maybe you just want to, wake up early. Tip number 1 is to take it slow. For example, you normally wake up like, let's take Sophia as an example. You said that you wake up at around 10 a.m., right?
Yes, but not all the time. Just when I sleep very, very late. But yes, I tend to wake up later than you.
Okay, so let's take that as an example. She wakes up at 10 a.m. Okay, so what you would do is you need to take it slow. So you need to start by waking up at around 9:30 a.m. the following day. So once you do this, and once you get used to it for a couple of days, let's say 3 days, you get used to waking up at 9:30 a.m. Try to reduce 30 more minutes. The next few days, you try to wake up at around 9 a.m. and then see how that would make you feel. And if you reach the certain goal that you want to wake up, let's say 5 a.m., so just reduce 30 more minutes and just take it slow. Don't rush it, because if you do rush it, what would happen is you would often feel this fatigue when you wake up, and it's just going to force you back onto the bed and sleep it off. And of course, you don't want that. The goal is to wake up earlier.
The other day, while I was scrolling through Twitter, I saw a tweet that said something along the lines of, I slept for so-and-so hours, but why do I still feel tired afterwards? Like, what was the point of sleeping? And so that brings up the point that your body may need to adjust to your new sleep schedule, as Elle mentioned, or you need to adjust the number of hours you sleep. Because sometimes people think that it's like, okay, I'll pull an all-nighter for the entire week. Anyways, afterwards, I can reward myself the following week by staying in and sleeping till, the afternoon. So even my mom says that you're kind of depriving yourself of sleep, thinking that anyways, you can pay yourself back with lots of hours of sleep after staying up so late. And your body doesn't really work like that. And so you need to keep in mind that it's still important to take it slow and balance your schedule. Don't think like, okay, I'll deprive myself of like 3 hours of sleep. Anyways, I can sleep tomorrow for an extra 3 hours. Although it seems like a good idea, it's still important to note that a night's sleep is different from a nap. Your body regenerates its cells and resets, especially during your night sleep. And it's something that naps don't necessarily do.
Okay, next is you know your alarm. Where do you usually put your alarm?
Put it at the side of my bed.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you want to wake up early and really wake up early, don't put it beside your bed. Put it somewhere where you have to get off your bed to turn it off. So let's say...
Get up. Okay.
Imagine this layout. Right in the middle of your room, there's your bed, right? Right beside is a cabinet or a... whatever that's called, bedside cabinet. So that's where you normally put your phone or your alarm.
Bedside table.
Bedside table, yeah. So what you're gonna want to do is, if you don't have a desk or table anywhere else in the room, well, basically you can put it in the floor where nobody, somewhere in the corner. That's where you're gonna want to set an alarm and make sure it's very loud. Pick that alarm that's kind of annoying. I don't know if this works for everybody, but I pick an alarm that's one of my favorite sounds that I would wake up to, which are just something off my playlist. That works for me when I wake up to a music or a song that I really like. But for some people, I know that having a very annoying alarm works for them. Just remember that if you really want to wake up early, put that snooze button as far away from your bed as possible. I promise you this is gonna work.
You mentioned setting a certain song to wake up to, and I just remembered during my grade school days, I would set the song Viva la Vida by Coldplay. Do you know that song?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so I would have vivid memories of waking up to that song and just feeling energized. Because the message of the song is really cool too. So it's perfect for the mornings. Okay, moving on.
Okay. The next one would be motivated to set an alarm early. Whether it's for an exam or you just naturally want to wake up early, make sure your alarm has a purpose. Whatever it is, just use it to motivate you. Next tip is, as soon as you wake up, exercise early. I myself exercise early at around 5:45 a.m. and I normally get up at 5 to 5:15 a.m. What exercising does is it wakes up your whole body and it wakes up your brain, because if you get to exercise and get that heart rate up, it is going to jumpstart your entire body. So yeah.
So as you can see, the advantages definitely outweigh the disadvantages when it comes to sleeping early and waking up early. Early birds tend to be more productive and more positive and healthier overall than night owls. And if you could learn one thing from this episode, it is to take care of yourself. Especially nowadays where health is our main investment, it's important to invest in ourselves through sleeping and making sure that our immune system is in check. Because once our immune system or our body is down, it's definitely harder to live. Because when our immune system or when our body is down, it will become harder and harder for us to become productive and to reach our goals. Also because of COVID. Those who are sleep deprived or lack sleep will usually have more complications when it comes to health, because as we've discussed earlier, our body needs this time to rest and also slow down in order to prepare for the next day. So if you're waiting for a sign to start waking up at 5 a.m., this is that sign. So that is Rhyme and Reason, where making sense just makes sense. Thank you for listening to our podcast. You can support us by subscribing to our podcast on the Anchor app. The support of our podcast will allow us to produce more interesting episodes in the future. If you like that episode, please hit that like and that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below to let us know what you think about the episode. Follow us on Twitter by clicking the link in the description. And we recently launched our Twitter space so listeners can share their thoughts and insights that they have gained from the podcast. We really love seeing you guys' support and receiving your comments. So if you have the time, do drop by, and who knows, you may just become one of our guests in an episode. See you next time!